Okay, the recording has started, and this is the August 27th, 2019 Rook community meeting. We are heading into hopefully shipping and releasing the 1.1 release soon. So let's dig into a lot of status stuff about where we are with that and what's left before we can ship. First of all, let's look at any patch releases first.
Yeah,
Travis, is this up to date?
Yeah, I spent some time yesterday trying to make sure the boards are up to date. I put a bunch of notes in the agenda to discuss things around releases. Yeah, for 1.0 release, there are 3 fixes that have been backported. Actually, I didn't verify if their issues are in this board here, but I know there are 3 around, let's see, I think around getting they're Ceph fixes, but Ceph dashboard being more stable, and I'm forgetting the other 2. But the idea was that, okay, let's get one more release out before 1.1 to make sure 1.0 is in a good place. So Friday was the tentative target for that. I don't think it was urgent, but just good to do it before we focus on 1.1 full-time next week. Well, that's really our focus anyway, but it's a quick thing really to put a release out there. We've got that pattern down pretty well, I think.
And so are there leftover work items here, or is everything accomplished and good to go?
There's no more leftover work items. It was 3 backports. Don't have an update on that one. They're still in to do, unfortunately. But yeah, there were 3 other issues.
Is there anything left to do for that release then, or is it done?
No, it was more about instead of rushing to get the release out with those, it was, well, those weren't totally urgent, so let's see if anything else.
Oh, okay, that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
So if anybody else has issues they'd like to backport to 1.0, I think just feel free to bring it up in the next couple of days, and we'll just plan on end of week. Or we could do it sooner if nothing else comes up, but I'd like to avoid yet another release after that if we can.
Yep, that sounds reasonable. All right, so let's talk about 1.1 then. So let's use this agenda here. Thank you, Travis. So we are in feature freeze. So let's talk through what's on the board here and how that translates to a feature freeze. And then I assume that there is some cleanup we need to do for the items that are in the 1.1 milestone, like tagged that way in GitHub and in this to-do column, but are not going to be included in the release.
Yeah, there's definitely some of those that the owners of those issues, if we could make a pass of those issues and remove them. I cleaned up the ones I knew of, made sure they're in the review column and in progress column. So I believe most of those are going to make it into 1.1 that are at least in progress or in review. There's one maybe to ask you about, Alexander, the placement group management at the top there, is that issue 560. I think I'd suggest we not do that in 1.1. And the workaround is people can still enable that module from the toolbox. It's just not clear if we should always enable it yet. Are you with us, Alexander? Or maybe he's eating his dinner. So anyway, that's one I think we can remove.
So being in feature freeze now, do you see, what are some items on the board here that, maybe will need to be exceptions made for in terms of getting features in still? Or what are some items here that are the biggest risks that we are concerned about?
Right, so from my perspective, I mean, we did get the biggest, hopefully riskiest features in already last week. And the ones remaining, I think, are around mon placement. And I put that PR in the list for discussion later, but changing how we schedule those mon pods. That's just going through final testing with Noah. And then the other main change, well, a couple more, but there's one around handling Kubernetes upgrades with pod disruption budgets and machine disruption budgets. So that one, I see it as lower risk because it's independent of our current controllers. It is adding new controllers into the operator, though. And then, I don't know, Blaine, do you want to bring up yours around the config changes? That's also a big change.
Sure. I have a PR number 3573 that is working on adding in support for Ceph's, I think new with Mimic, or rather like sort of fully baked with Mimic configuration database that the monitors keep. And we want to enable this so that we can, so that Rook can set values for things like it currently does, which it often does via a config file, but also so that those values can be overridden by users, especially in like debug situations or for cluster tuning after Rook has set it up. And so, yeah, I'm basically trying to remove support for, or remove almost all of the places where Rook is explicitly using a config file, and instead just allowing the config file to always be whatever the user's config overrides are set in that config map, which also are useful in particularly degraded scenarios or for like setting particular options during like first cluster bring up where there are no monitors available. There's, kind of a lot of context to get through really quickly.
Yeah, and I guess thanks, Blaine. I guess to back up a second, the way I'm viewing feature freeze is that, okay, we had a big push to get features in. We knew coming into this week that we would have these other items, and other storage providers have items too. Like I know EdgeFS is ready to declare V1 on their CRDs, right, Dimitri and Anton? So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think it's up to each storage provider to assess risk for their provider and kind of be flexible with the feature freeze at this point.
Do we have issues open for like the issue that with config files, et cetera, that Blaine was talking about? Is that issue already on here on the board and like being tracked so we can get a good idea of what's still in flight that we want to include?
Yeah, where is that issue? I mean, everything should be on the board, but...
Oh, I think it actually hasn't made it onto the board yet as a sort of accident. I can add the like labels and stuff to it now.
Cool, that's great, Blade. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So so it seems then, like as an overall observation, that we had a big push to get in a lot of features, and we have some things still in flight here that we want to have included as well. Some important items for the release. And that's kind of part of this buffer here that we have around feature freeze. It seems like each storage provider is assessing and making the calls on the risk associated with those, and then getting those in. I think the changes that would have cross storage provider impact, those ones we should keep an eye out on. And make some group calls potentially, but each individual storage provider is still making their own calls for changes that affect the quality or functionality of their particular storage provider only.
Yep. And I have a few more thoughts around release. Yeah, back in here.
I'm taking notes while for something else popped in my head. Okay, yes, sir, Travis. You have other notes about 1.1.
Let's see. So in the last meeting, we discussed potentially shooting for end of next week for release. I think that, I mean, with everything going on, I think that's not realistic at this point. And so I'll be traveling the next week, but I should still be able to help drive the release to some degree, at least that next week. So the next week, anyway, as our original target, maybe good to state that, okay, that's really our realistic target is that second week of September.
Just
Mhm.
Travis, a question. So what's going to be the date of the release? Do we kind of know the date yet or not yet?
So I think that, I mean, the final date has always in the past depended on when we have what we consider blocking issues to all be resolved, and we've done a final test pass and tested upgrade scenarios and some other manual testing. Make sure the documentation is accurate, and actually maybe I'll jump down a couple of bullets to something I wanted to bring up. It's up. Really, we need sign off from each of the storage providers to know that we're ready for that release. So I'd like to even put owners to that sign off process and be clear about who's signing off, and as we drive towards that release date. So if we tentatively set,
Yeah,
but go ahead.
Yeah. No, I mean, so I was thinking maybe we should just set up the hard date and basically say, okay, this is the hard stop, and you need to make sure your features either in or out, right? Because, like, yeah. Otherwise, my worry is that because the timelines is like different providers, like in HFS, we have completely different set of agendas, right? So like we're not necessarily even bound by that date. But if you set up the date, we will be obligated to reach that date. So we'll try to do that. So that helps. But if but I mean, just my thought.
Another thought. So I had a proposal on lockdown strategy around this, and Blaine, this is related to an issue you opened a couple of months as well. I realized it was kind of, anyway, similar thought process that I'd propose at the end of this week that we actually create the release branch, and at that point, that really is our lockdown. Our way to enforce lockdown at the next level, which is anything that wants to be in the release will be backported after that. And
I like that actually. I think it's not a bad idea, but how difficult is to maintain this branch, you think?
I think that's a good idea. I think we still have to be very judicious about what we do put into master, because if master gets too far ahead, then actually doing backports is going to involve a lot of like refactoring, and then that's also like, I mean, going to make it harder for us, but also like potential like risk for things to not go the best as well.
Right. So we, at least until the 1.0 or 1.1 release goes out, maybe we keep changes in masters small, except for what we're backporting.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, I mean, I do think that's a good idea, and I think that's if my memory serves, I think that's the process that like the Kubernetes upstream project uses as well.
And Travis, this the proposed tag here should be 1.1, right?
Oh yes, 1.1.
Excellent.
Thank you. I might have had CSI 1.2 on my brain. Anyway, and I did open a PR that would allow us to support these other alpha, beta, and RC tags, just like the Kubernetes releases do. The tag really, I don't think would be something we necessarily publish, or I mean, it's a way for us to create the initial branch, but I'm not sure how much we'll actually use those tags initially, at least. But we'll need some process around this as we figure out what we really need for this lockdown. Because I don't think we want the whole alpha, beta, RC release process. That's more than we need at this point. But so if we just have a beta for now and use that internally for testing, really.
Right. So when the release branch, the release 1.1 branch is created, it's created with a tag of having beta in the name, right? So we haven't officially created a 1.1 tag at that point, because the intent is to continue potentially backporting or taking on fixes and polish, et cetera, to drive towards the 1.1 actual release. And then we'll apply that 1.1 tag at that point.
Exactly. Yeah, we can. So we have the release branch. We don't have the official tag until we do release later.
Yeah, I think that seems reasonable.
Okay, so let's target end of week then for creating the release branch and that tag, that beta tag.
So the end. So do I hear this? Sorry, do I hear this correctly? End of week. Yes, end of week.
Yes, I think
Friday night or something like that. Okay.
Yes. And then whatever needs
Sounds
to come
good,
into
sounds
the
good.
release after that would just go into master first and then backported to the 1.1 branch.
Okay.
And then do we have owners to assign for each of the storage providers? That's what I worry about, because
Yeah, I'd be happy to
all
take.
of them, right?
I'll be happy to take test and take on or verify cockroach and NAO.
Okay. Is Rohan on the call?
Yeah, I was going to ask you if Rohan could do NFS.
Yeah, I'll ping him about that.
He's not here on the call?
No.
So he could definitely take it.
And then, Giannis, I saw some activity from him a few days ago, so hopefully he can take Cassandra. Yeah, and for a few of those providers, no changes have really been made in this release, I think. So it's just a sanity check of the docs or whatever.
For Yugabyte, I know the pull request to add the operator implementation is going through a couple of rounds of feedback now. It seems like it's converging decently, though. So the hope is to have that included in 1.1, right?
Yeah,
Correct,
absolutely.
yes.
Awesome.
Samir?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Hey, Samir.
Hi, Jared.
I heard a podcast just this week that had Karthik talking about like open source licenses, and in that podcast they kept referring to it as Yugabyte. Have I been calling it the wrong name by saying Yugabyte? Is it Yugabyte?
Actually, we also call it Yugabyte.
Oh, do you? Okay, cool.
And we have weekly calls with them. So I haven't heard any complaints from them. So maybe both is right.
Yeah, open to interpretation. Good. Okay, so we'll keep calling it what feels comfortable. Yugabyte. Good.
All right.
Yep.
I also had a couple of items about the Yugabyte PRs that we have. The PR that was raised initially for Yugabyte design is open. So is there any action item pending from us on that? Do you know?
Alexander had the last comments on it. Alexander, are you with us yet?
I'm not talking about the code PR. So I'm talking about the design PR.
Was the design PR was merged, wasn't it, or was there a follow-up PR I missed?
Was it much?
What's the PR number?
3655. Maybe.
No, that's a different one.
Just a second.
Okay.
Oh, it's actually 3550.
3550.
Okay. Oh, I just see it was merged.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, that one was
Sorry.
merged. Yep.
Okay.
Excellent.
All right. And on the code PR, I have one small item that I need to address, as Alexander pointed out. So I'll do that in some time now. But the build just failed for my last push, and I am not sure as to what really the cause is. It didn't seem like it was some of my change, but it could be. So I'll also spend some time on that, and maybe I'll ping you on the build channel, or maybe even Yogabyte channel, one of those.
Okay. Yeah, ping us there. We do have a number of random CI failures that are known issues not related to your PR. So if you have 4 out of 5 green, as far as the Kubernetes versions, probably it's not your issue. It looks like
Okay.
Jared's confirming here. File tests hang. That's one of the most common ones. So, yep, not your issue.
Okay.
You
All
win,
right.
Samir. Woo!
Yeah, that's nice. Okay.
Very nice.
So just one last question then. So after I address Alexander's comment, would we be good for merging this, or would there be any additional steps?
Yeah, that should be the last thing. It was ready from my perspective.
Okay, good.
Yeah, then we'll
All
just get Alex to take another look to make sure to verify that the changes he requested are met, and then Alex can change his vote to an approval.
I think there was just one bigger comment left. I think that's what already solved. I wanted to take a look in the during the day today, but I'll probably only get to it in like 1.5 hours or so.
Cool. Yeah, no
Sorry.
worries on that, Alex.
But from my side, it was I think like one comment that was in need of to be addressed. So I'll look at it on my phone in a second.
Sounds great. Thanks, Alex. All right. Yeah, Samir, great. It looks like that's converging, and that we'll be able to merge that and include that in 1.1. That's awesome to get a new storage provider in this release. Thank you for all the work on that, Samir.
Sure. And thank you, all of you, for helping me out with this.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And it'd also be great to update the Rook.io website with that. It's just so it's listed on the main page there. Are you a front-end developer too? You can open a PR there.
I can try, yeah.
That's the spirit.
Yeah, let me point out the repo where that happens.
Yeah, you could drop that in the chat here.
Yep.
All right, the next topic we had here in the agenda was about major features merged since the last meeting.
Yeah, I thought it'd be good to have a new top-level bullet here, just FYI for people on what's happening. I put the storage providers there in alphabetical order, but for Ceph, we had object bucket provisioning and external cluster support. Many other changes coming too, but those are the ones I wanted to add there. And
Travis, I have a question. I've not. Hello, sorry.
yes.
Yeah, I've not looked much into the object bucket provisioning, but do you see this as HFS also potentially can use the same kind of CRDs to leverage some of it and do the bucket provisioning as well?
I think any storage provider that has an S3 endpoint, or basically object storage, should be able to implement that CRD as well. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, we'll probably add it by the end of the year.
Great. Yeah, there's the design doc around bucket provisioning you can find in the design folder, or I can point you to the right people to learn more.
Yeah, thanks so much.
And then we also got the Motifs multi-home networking was just merged recently as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, can we rename Multus to the multi-home networking instead, because it's really independent of Multus. We can add more than not just Multus but others as well.
Yep, my mistake.
Yeah, and so I think the guy he was part of the Google's Summer of Code program, and he did a good job. I think we should highlight him somehow. I don't know, just send him a mail or something like that.
Yeah, that's. I wanted to ask.
Also, yeah.
Go ahead, Dimitri.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead. Sorry, Jared.
Oh yeah, I was just wanted to ask about that because I knew that effort was part of the Google Summer of Code project. So I wanted to get an update on how the program went for you. We could talk about that in the community topics. So I have an item about that, so we could talk about that.
Okay. So for HFS, there is one more bullet here at least, and it's support for the rolling upgrades. Yeah. And transitioning to the stable V1 CRD. I don't know if that is the major feature, but it's quite a bit.
And that one's not quite merged yet, though.
Not quite merged, but
it's coming up. Yep.
We will be committing this before Friday. Yes, for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely really big news.
Yep.
Great. So I'll add that in the next meeting notes for next time. Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
And we've talked about Gigabyte already here. So Dimitri, do you want to talk for a second about the Google Summer of Code experience this summer here, and Giovanni's efforts there, and how that all went?
Yeah. Yeah, that was first of all, it was first time for me. So I never been mentor for program like that. It wasn't, honestly, I did not capture lots of my time. So Giovanni did a lot of work on himself, and I think it's actually a good thing for the young people to get involved. I really love the program, so I think we should continue this definitely. And next summer we should figure out what else we can do. If you looked at the design proposal, what he put in place, it's actually not just a GFS. We do have all the plumbing done, and whatever we've merged also can be extensible by other operators as well. CF probably a next target, and I think one of the things we should do is to encourage him to finish CF implementation for that. So let's see how that goes. And obviously, he starts his the next year in university, and he will not have that much time to contribute. But if he will have time, why not? And we should probably just talk to him, congratulate, and encourage to do that.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I think that's one of the really awesome things about the Google Summer of Code program is that, it gives a great opportunity for, younger folks early in their careers to join an open source project, to become part of that community and make a meaningful contribution, and hopefully remain encouraged to continue to contribute to that project going forward as well. That's worked great with our first Google Summer of Code alumnus, Rohan. He's continued to contribute to the project here, so I think that's a great idea to continue to keep Giovanni, engaged and encouraged. He's more than welcome to be, to continue participating in the community there. If we haven't already, we should, tweet about his effort there and thank him and congratulate him with that. Does he want to write a blog post about this topic? I think that, some of the concepts about multi-home networking and the design that went into it and what it accomplishes, some new scenarios that it opens up and stuff like that, that would be an awesome blog post. If he's interested in writing that, so he could get blog authorship on the Rook.
I was actually thinking doing this together. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. That'd be great.
I was thinking, yeah. We definitely do the blog together, and probably in September or something. Ideally after 1.1 release, right? And we will then blog right away, so that we'll create a little bit more momentum on this work, and 1.1 release. I think that's why we're gonna do that.
Cool. That sounds fantastic. Awesome.
All right.
All right. And Travis, I think the next thing is pull release. Pull release. Pull
Release.
request for release changes.
Related to what I was mentioning earlier. So our tag pipeline currently only allows for release branches without the beta or other suffixes. So that pull request there does allow for alpha, beta, or RC suffixes on the version. So I'll need that reviewed. I tagged Bassam on it, but not sure when he'll be available. So yeah, Jared, if you want to take a look at it, or someone else, that'd be great.
3684.
Yeah. Yep. That in by Friday so we can do our initial branching for 1.1.
Cool. I wrote that down to take a look at that.
Sounds good. And then the other PR I had there is around the MON scheduling change with NOAA. So just, to point out how differently this will be for scheduling MONs. So in the past, we've had basically our own scheduling code where we look at the nodes and we try and figure out if they have taints and tolerations or those sorts of things. And then we scheduled MONs on individual nodes and added node selectors. So with this change, what it is removing all of that custom scheduling code because it's really had a number of issues and scheduling is a pretty hard problem. So what we do is we create what we call a canary pod, and we schedule the canary pod, which says, hey, just let's schedule this pod with all of the taints and tolerations and whatever that are requested in the CRD. And then let's see where Kubernetes places it. And then we delete the pod and then start the real mon pod with the node selector for that node. So it's a nice simplification around scheduling mons that takes advantage of Kubernetes scheduling so we can get out of that business. So kudos to Noah for working through this, and looking forward to getting it into this release.
Awesome. Sounds great. And Noah's not on the call today, right? Yeah,
no.
Okay.
Yeah, he officially started at a startup this week, so we won't be seeing as much of him going
Less
forward,
Noah?
unfortunately.
Oh, yeah, that is definitely sad. But we wish him the best in his new endeavor.
Yep.
Awesome. Cool. So that's all we had in the agenda items here. Is there any more topics that anybody would like to bring up before we adjourn? Okay, that sounds good then. So let's this week we'll be following up on working towards the 1.1 release, and we've got some ownership for sign off on that, and we'll continue to polish and get things into the 1.1 release branch after we cut it. And we're looking forward to having a quality release with new storage provider and a lot of new interesting functionality as well. So great work from everybody in the community here. I'm definitely looking forward to the 1.1 release. And we will see you at the next meeting in 2 weeks from now.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.